Here we go. There we go. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is Hoya Locker Room, episode 84. My name is Gene Smith. I am without my co-host Markham Stansbury this morning, so it should be a really, really good show because he's not here. I feel extremely lucky and fortunate to have these two gentlemen here this morning. I have a Mr. Art White, played at Georgetown 1969-71, graduated in 76, and that's a story in and of itself. I'm looking forward to getting into that. Then I have a Mr. Eric Smith, who's a returning survivor from class of 78 through 82. I'd like to welcome both you gentlemen to the show. And I'm going to start. I'm going to dive right in because, again, I titled this episode "The Crossing of the Line," and what that meant to me was the season of 69-70 was an incredible season. They finished the season 18-7. They were on like a 12. They won 12 out of 14 games during that year. They went to the N.I.T. So I'm looking to get into that with Art. And then Smitty, Eric Smith, I want to talk about the 81-82 season. That was your senior season. And I had a chance to sit on the bench. I had a front row seat to watch. So that's kind of the backdrop, the context of the show. So with that, again, welcome, fellas. And like I said, I want to dive right in. And Art, you came to Georgetown, highly recruited, second team, all New York City, White Plains, New York in the building. So you came highly regarded. You had an incredible class that year. What brought you to the hilltop? What was the inspiration? What was the recruiting like, if at all any? Just dive right in.
Yeah, well, thank you, Gene, for including me, and it's always good to be with Eric. Eric and I get on the golf course regularly, and I usually play with him, so we get to take some of Coach Escherich's money occasionally. but I think you framed this really well because the transition from our team in the late 60s, early 70s, going into when John Thompson took over and took the program to the next level. But our season in 1969-70, I think, whetted the appetite for the Hoyas to go to the next level. But we were basically standing on the shoulders of some really great players that had come before us, and but we did have that really nice season and wound up playing in the N.I.T. against LSU, and it was it was a difficult time. There was the late 60s. The country was in a lot of turmoil, tremendous racial turmoil, and we had a nice team. We wound up playing Jacksonville early in the season, and that was kind of an important game. Jacksonville came out of nowhere with Artis Gilmore and Pembroke Burrows and Rex Morgan and those guys, and they had a great team. We wound up getting into an altercation with them, and the game was disrupted, and we never finished it. And it was originally considered a forfeit. A forfeit would be 2-0 for Jacksonville. Well, they didn't want that because they wanted to be the first team to average over 100 points a game. So they were rooting for a no contest, and we were rooting for a no contest. And the NCAA said, okay, if both teams want a no contest, we'll do that. That helped us get into the NIT. And, the Hoya enthusiasm and tradition was demonstrated throughout that season and the seasons to come. And the disappointing season of the next year of 72 was palpable, and people were really unhappy. I had left to go play in Europe. I had academic issues, to put it mildly. I went to the Foreign Service School. I probably should have gone to the college. I might have been able to keep myself eligible in the college, but the Foreign Service School was pretty tough. And so I wound up playing in Europe, and I had to watch my guys, Mike Lofna, Hall of Famer, that team just went through a hellacious year, and that was no fun. But it did come on the heels of a nice season when we went to the N.I.T, and the appetite for Georgetown basketball was really strong. And ultimately, Coach Thompson came in and took us to the level, because he was able to recruit guys like you and Eric and Patrick and the rest of the guys that took us to the championship. So we kind of feel like we at least contributed to the enthusiasm and the expectation that Georgetown should have a major program. And, Big John certainly did that.
So I just want to put a asterisk on this. Art is humble, which I love, and just as Eric Smith is, but Art in that LSU game, Smitty, he 28 and 10, 28 points, 10 rebounds. So he's kind of glossing over some things. So he that game was the precursor to everything, as Art mentioned, was the precursor to everything that I think took place in 81, 82.
Well, and if I can just mention, guys like Mike Laska, who guarded Pete Maravich, and Donnie Weber, who double teamed him when he had the ball, and then Charlie Adrian and Mike Lofna and Paul Favorite and Jerry Piles and the whole crowd, Eddie McNamara, and you got to give credit to Jack McGee. I mean, Jack was a terrific coach. I mean, he was a great game coach. He was an X's and O's guy. We had our personality difficulties, and I won't blame him. I think there was plenty of blame to go around. We were all a bunch of wild men, but Jack had some good practices leading up to the game with Pete, and we had a real good idea of what we wanted to do. And Laska shut down everybody during the year. I mean, Mel Knight at Seton Hall, all these guys. The only guys he couldn't shut down were the guys at Florida State, who were playing with Dave Cowens, and there was no shutting those guys down. But it was a great team effort, and Coach McGee was huge.
Just let the record show the fighting started with 69-70. Just let the record show. That's where the hammer and Hoyas came from, right? So we don't want to take credit for that anymore.
If I can share in that legacy, I'm happy to do so.
Mr. Eric Smith, again, a repeat survivor to the show. Your record, obviously, the press was a little bit more advanced than when Art played. So your reputation precedes you. Three sport guy from Potomac, all met in football and basketball. Which was rare. I'm sure Big John had a conversation with you about not playing football at Georgetown. But the way Art framed everything, speak about your coming to the hilltop, speak about what it meant to accomplish the things that you accomplished. Again, from your freshman year, from the ECAC buzzer beater all the way to, the national championship game and being the MVP of that team. Speak on that.
Well, first, let me say it's great to be here with you two. Always enjoy your company, both of you. Very good men and gentlemen and scholars. I just love you both. Coming to the hilltop, that's a great question. And I know you said something about, was there any added pressure playing at home? I know you mentioned that to me before, and I always, my career actually parallels with Art. We started out my freshman year, of course, I didn't start at all. So
except for that one game in the ECAC when Steve Martin was hurt.
Oh, right. Right.
I do my homework, Art. I do my homework.
You're one step ahead of Eric.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to remember anymore.
Yeah, he's Art. You both are humble. You're not going to give out the stats. You both are humble guys.
So it was like, I got to learn playing behind Steve, and we did pretty well my freshman year, but my sophomore year is where everything kind of took off. Like you said, Art said, he had great players before us, like Craig Shelton, Bebe Dorn, Jonathan Smith, the Wilson brothers, Lonnie Dorn. There's a lot of great players before us that got us in that position. And once Patrick came in, it's like we just kicked down the door. We had a great season. My sophomore year, we went to the Elite Eight, and we lost. Still don't know how we lost that game to Iowa, but we did. And then we had a bad season that next year, my junior year. It was like you said, it was a bunch of knuckleheads, and we just didn't do well that year. And then when Patrick came in, of course, Gene, and you came in that our junior year, and that season, how bad that season was. And then as our senior year, then that's when everything just gelled. We got a lot of great freshmen that came in, Anthony Jones and Bill Martin, Freddie Brown. Freddie came in before that, and along with our seniors that were already there, we already had 4 years under our belt. So it was a good mesh, and that turned out to be a great season, which we did make to the Final Four and got to the championship game, of course, and everybody knows that game. And
but we can't forget it. Every time I go someplace, I see the jump shot, and you happen to be in the frame, and I'm like, that's not my guy. That's not how I want to remember my guy.
Right. I got that. I have that picture sent to me every year. March. So yeah, it's a never-ending story. But we and then a lot of people say, well, you made it to a place where a lot of people didn't make, but you still don't want to be that second. Nobody remember who comes at second. So, but yeah, it was great playing underneath Thompson. A lot of, how difficult it could be if you let it get to you. If you just listen to what he was saying and not how he said it, that's how I always dealt with it. And he did sit down and listen to us too. And a lot of people don't know that. John, when we went through that stretch when we lost 3 Big East games in a row, you remember him sitting us down all in the seats and asking each individual player, what do you think? What's going on? And I know I gave him my little 2 cents, and I told him, I said, every time that we play in practice and something happens, we get a rebound, you stop us from playing, still letting us play. And then he let us play and continue going up and down the court. And after that, we went on a streak, and the rest was history. And
that's a nice segue to my next question. You both played for challenging coaches. Art touched on a little bit in the intro when he talked about his relationship with Jack McGee. You mentioned it. What was it like for both of you playing for such challenging coaches, and what do you remember most, and what did you take away, and what did you leave behind? I'll start.
Well, I'll try to take off on that. Playing college basketball is a privilege, and the expectations are very, very, very serious. The fans expect you to win, but you also, you're an 18-year-old kid, and you're dealing with, these expectations. Plus, you're trying to match your academic effort with your athletic effort. I tended to put more focus on my social effort, because Georgetown was such a great place to go to school. And getting back to why I went to Georgetown, basically because it's one of the most interesting cities in the world. It's a seat of government. It's a great basketball mecca. I had some opportunities to go to some other schools, South Carolina, with Frank McGuire was coaching there. But ultimately, my family and I decided that Georgetown was the best place for me to go. And Jack McGee was he was like most coaches, very intense, very intense. Um, you know, and sometimes was not, but he would do the same thing that Big John did when he sat you guys down and said, what's wrong? What are we doing wrong here? And Jack would listen to us, he gave it his all. I will say that, and so did we. But it was, there was a lot going on in the country, a lot of distractions. And but it was a great time to play basketball. And as I said, Georgetown's legacy that preceded us. I played as a freshman for Jimmy Brown. Jimmy, was a Hall of Fame player. One of the great guards of all time. Held the assist record for many years. But then there were guys ahead of him. Guys like Henry Hyde, Congressman Henry Hyde played for the Hoyas. He guarded George Mikan when the Hoyas beat DePaul. Paul Tagliabue, former NFL commissioner, he was like a rebounding leader at Georgetown. Putty Sheehan and Jim Barry was an incredible player. He still holds the record, 46 points. He still holds the single game record at Georgetown. I played with Charlie Adrian. Charlie still holds the single rebounding record. I think he got 32 against GW when we used to. GW played their home games over at Fort Myers in Arlington, and that was a real unique experience. But the challenges of playing for Jack, they were the same as you have with every coach. You're trying to win. He's juggling 1,000 things. We're all running around trying to have a good time and play well and get through school. So I think it got simpler with Coach Thompson, because he took, and I'll let Eric address this, and Gene, it, but he took some of the things off the table. I mean, the social temptations that I was, and I wasn't the only one. We were all out there running around. But
he took he took the whole table. He took everything.
Well, Big John ran a different ship, and it was a different time. And they, when he came in, he was given carte blanche to, just and the expectations were, look, just take us to the N.I.T. on a regular basis and we'll be happy. Well, obviously his aspirations and his he wasn't settling for that. He was going to go for the big ring. And but again, I think we kind of whetted the appetite, and Georgetown was has had so much success under Big John and you guys like you and the whole legacy of Georgetown players. It just got better and better and better. And but I'll let Eric talk to the specific challenges of playing for Big John.
So Eric, what I want you to concentrate on, if you can, is your freshman year and your senior year, and how they were either very different, very similar. How did the challenges compare? Because again, you came in with an incredible class like Art did. I mean, you came in with the crew. So if you could kind of use that as the backdrop and just share.
Coming in as a freshman, and you had people like Floyd and Hancock and Spriggs, Blaylock. They were all. Most of them were touted, I guess, top players. I wasn't. Not over nationally, maybe in the area, but not nationally. And so there was a little nervousness, in the beginning, in trying to get acclimated with everything, with schooling and practices. I never practiced 3 hours a day when I was in high school. And then with all the, how Big John was, the yelling and the cursing he was doing when you first got there. I remember, when you first started practicing, and he, right away, after every play, there's a huddle. And, I walked to the huddle, and boy, whoo, This is no, you know, them words he said, this is no football. You're not playing football, son. You know, right away. After that, you know, you just get into the habit. And if you ever watched the Georgetown game back when we played, you'll see every play, everybody just run to a huddle real quick. Nobody would walk anymore after that. You know what I'm saying? So, and then as you get to your senior year, you're more comfortable with them. You know, you've been around them 3 or 4 years. You get to know and realize, like I said before, if you just listen to what he's saying and not how he said, you would be better off if you not let those words just get in the way. And he always told you, you know, the door is only locked one way, gentlemen. You know that, right? So you can always.
Did McGee tell you that, Paul? I mean, Art, I'm sorry. Did McGee tell you that?
What's that? That the door only locked one way?
It's only locked one way.
I never heard that expression. No.
Oh, yeah. Don't walk one way. If you don't like it, you can leave, gentlemen, but you can't get back in. So
yeah, that's good.
These kids just leave whenever they want to leave. It's I don't know. It's just changed. I know, but over the years, I mean, you had Coach Thompson kind of grew on you, you know, and he treated everybody the same. It's like he cussed out Patrick just as much as he cussed me out. So
yeah, I wanna kind of add on to this a little bit because I had the privilege, Art, of being around Smitty for a couple of years, and he was he was a different kind of leader. You know, he didn't really say much. But when he said something, it spoke volumes, right? And it was never with a stern or hard word or hard fist, so to speak. And I can share that about him. What type of leader were you? Or what type of leaders did you have on your team in that 69-70 season?
That's a good question. Now, you know, we had a really strong senior class, first of all. Charlie Adrian, Jimmy Higgins was one of the captains. He was captain with Charlie. Jimmy was a fire breather, but he didn't play much. He was he played linebacker in high school, and he was a superb basketball player, but he didn't get a lot of floor time. But I can tell you, when we were playing Jacksonville and we got into this fight that I was in the middle of, and basically the guy was guarding me, Mike Blevins, was trying to intimidate me, and we were being pressed, and so I was going long, and I was kind of isolated with Blevins, and 2 consecutive times down, he tried to kind of blindside me with an elbow, and the third time I squared up on him and knocked him down, and the benches cleared, and then the stands cleared, but Jimmy Higgins came off the bench and got into it with Rex Morgan. So we showed some fight, and then we got a police escort to the hotel because we couldn't finish the game. But you know, but that's the kind of leadership we had. Charlie was on the floor, and Laska was guarding whoever needed to be guarded. Donnie Weber was bringing the ball up. You know, guys playing and leading by example. But Jimmy Higgins was great, and I you know, he was probably the most vocal guy. Everybody else, I would say, was a little more just play well, set the example, and lead by example. So
awesome. So Smitty, with that, can you talk about the leadership on the 81-82 team?
Leadership,
because it was, you know, again, we had. I'll never forget the photo from the team, whatever that's called, in the beginning of the year. The
program.
Yeah, the program they do, and it's all 6 of you guys with the cap on, with Big John sitting at the piano. I don't know why he's sitting at the piano, but it's kind of cool.
He was a maestro. He know how to play.
It was kind of cool. But can you speak to the leadership and who was loud, who who was what, the personalities involved, yourself included?
I know Ed Spriggs and I were labeled captains, but and Ed was a little boisterous at times. Of course, like you said, I didn't say much unless I thought it was warranted, and not many times that I did, because we had a bunch of seniors playing, so we didn't have a lot of telling. You didn't have to really tell anybody what to do or calm down. Everybody knew what to do and how to do it and how to go about it. I remember yelling at one time in the championship game about we got in the huddle and I said, "Get the ball into Patrick," in a different way than what we usually talk on. And but for the most part, I think we just showed by example how to play the game, than more so than being vocal. I think we just and we took a lot of pride in what we were doing, especially defensively. I know everybody talks about it, and just to think, Gene, they thought that we started all the stuff, but back, man.
If there's any takeaway from this episode,
yes, it wasn't
fighting
us.
started with Art Bright and
yes.
the 69-70 team.
Yes.
Well,
everything
we
competed on, Gene, so we just carried it on, and then you play a little tough. I think and defensively it was just so. You remember, Gene, when we used to it got so bad when Thompson told us he called that 55 soft.
Mm-hmm.
Where he would tell us not even to press, just set it up, and some people would just throw the ball away. They were like, "We're not even coming after." They were throwing the ball away. It got so bad,
Mark Tillman told me a story once. They were playing Ohio State. I think it was Ohio State, and they were down like 12 or something, whatever, in the second half, and they came back, and it was a ferocious comeback, and Tillman said Ohio State calls a timeout, and they're walking over to the bench. And Big John says to the team, "It's the ghost. They're afraid of the ghost." So that's how much that Hoya paranoia and that hammering stuff that Art and them started. That's how powerful it was.
Well, you guys took it to a new level.
This is a question for two humble guys that I'm sure will. You guys will skirt over this, but you guys are regarded as two of the top 40, top 50 guys that ever graced the hilltop. What does that mean to you? Because again, I think the history of the program now is needed more than ever, because we're going through a challenging time. And what better time to get back and to understand where we come from to know where we're going. So that's part of what Hoya Locker Room is all about, celebrating the guys that did it in the blue and gray. You both accomplished a lot. Can you speak to some accomplishments that you're most proud of, and how that is carried on? And then I'd love for you both to touch on this friendship that you have, because I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
And Art, we'll let Smitty start.
Okay.
Because I'm sure he's going to say less, and then you're going to say lesser.
I'm just proud of the fact that I was the only child in my family that actually went to college and was able to play basketball and get a chance for education, and coming out of the neighborhood I came out of, in Scotland, in Potomac, Maryland, I didn't think about going to college at all. I was, I always thought everybody would just grow up, go to high school, and go to work. And then this game, sports, came along, and as I grew up, I was we didn't win a lot when I was in boys club. We would play some teams, like they would beat us 48-8 in basketball, and I would score 7 points. And I'm thinking, so I lost all the way up until like 8th grade. And then we started winning championship 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and finally won the state. So, and I know you mentioned about something about the added pressure of playing home and playing in big games and stuff like that. It's just, I think learning that we lost early in my life and then started winning all the games just became just regular games now. It's like I know that championship game is the magnitude of it, but we didn't. I don't even think. And people don't believe me when I say that. I just took it as another game, and I think being away from all that fanfare, and when we were in Biloxi, Mississippi, I think that helped. But the only thing I did think that might have hurt us a little bit is that ride hour and a half to get to the game. You know, when you ride, you ride on the bus, you kind of tired, right? When you Man, I think because if you look at that game, we missed so many steals that we usually get by inches. And but you were talking about what I remember about Georgetown. Of course, being selected as in the All Big East team a couple times, and I think the biggest thing I was pleased about was being selected as the most valuable player of the '82 team. I think that came from the coaching staff, and with the players we had, that really meant a lot.
Thank you, Eric. You know, I got a tear in my eye, and I'm glad I got my glasses on because you know, as you get older, at least for me, I'm getting more emotional. So I literally, after I finish these shows, whatever you want to call them, I sit down and I it's the best thing that I got going right now. And again, I can't thank you both enough for being here, but thank you, Eric, for sharing that. I know that meant a lot.
One more thing though, yesterday at the game, that I got to give a shout out to all the players that showed up yesterday. There was a lot of us there. You know, Sleepy Floyd, Michael Jackson was there, Jerome Williams, Michael Graham, Hancock, Baby Lonnie. We actually took a picture like at
Bobby
halftime.
Winston.
Yeah, Bobby Winston. And
I got the picture.
Yeah.
If I was more tech savvy, I would put it up, but I'm not tech savvy.
Yeah, Robert Churchwell and and Mark was there. Yeah, it was a good. It was a lot of people showed up yesterday. I was unfortunate we took an L, but
it means great. A lot. It means a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that showed up. Okay, go ahead.
So Art, again, top, considered one of the top Hoyas to ever walk on the hilltop. And I think we lost Art. We lost your video, Art. You still there?
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, I'm back.
Technical difficulties are the norm on the show, so don't worry about it. You did it in 2 years. And not only did you do it in 2 years, once you left Georgetown, you went to the University of Waterloo.
Well, I went directly to Belgium and played ball in Belgium. But my most significant accomplishment, I think, at Georgetown was graduating.
Yeah, you came back in '76. Yeah, because
I dug myself a pretty good hole, but I kind of always knew I would graduate. I wasn't. So I always knew I would, but it took a while. But in terms of basketball, the accomplishments that we had my sophomore year, that was a lot of fun. We had a great time. It was a great year. We had some great games, great stories. I mean, the Jacksonville. I'm going to get together next week down in Florida with Jimmy Brown, my freshman coach, and then Bobby Hannon. He was captain of the team when I was a junior. Donnie Weber, Eddie McNamara, and then my freshman classmates that we played together, Pete Ramey, Craig Newman, Andy Lumley, Bob Began. We still get together, and we still tell these stories. But that whole year was an accomplishment in itself, and again, it led to a increased passion for Hoya basketball. So the school was so lucky to get Big John and the St. Anthony's team that was so good, and then all of you that you know come on behind those early teams. You know, being part of a legacy that's that strong and that powerful is significant. And you know, Patrick, you know, helped take us to the top of the mountain. You know, he's having his troubles now, but you know, that desire and that legacy is, you know, we will return to that level. There is that passion and that need within Washington and within the city of Washington and within the school of Georgetown. So I'm optimistic that we're going to have some great accomplishments ahead of us, and turbulent waters are part of the trip.
Art, thank you. So I couldn't have said it better. And again, when thinking about this show initially, it was just I'm getting two cats who really like each other, who played at different times, and are friends, and that was the premise. And then as I started digging a little bit deeper, I'm like, we've been here before. You know, the 3-23 was not an aberration, right? It came from something. The 69-70, the 69-70 set us up, right? The school basketball became important, right?
Yep.
You know, enrollment went through the roof after the N.I.T, after the N.I.T game. And then, you know, Smitty's senior year, 81-82, was the culmination, right? You know, they talk about, you know, Big John walking out to watch the UNC Houston game, the first game, and how our fan base just, you know, was in uproar and clapping and excited. And again, you know, you go back to 69-70, what happened with you guys in the NIT, even though you lost that game, it was before Big John got there. So that was we were on the precipice. So,
well, we got a view of what the magic could be like.
Yes. So, you know, with that being said, guys, you know, I can't thank you enough. I would like for you to touch on the friendship that you two have and how did that come about? Because again, I think if I could do anything for the current state of affairs is to let the youngins know, like, we've been here before and we will. And it's not about being like foolishly optimistic. It's just about we come from good stock.
Right.
I mean, our program was built on something.
Right.
But I'd love for you to touch on your relationship and your friendship, and when are we going to have a Hoya golf tournament? Like that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Smitty, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Coach Esherick first got us together. Is that right?
Well, I mean, as far as playing golf, yes, but we got to know each other.
Right. You and I met at the get-togethers. Yeah.
Yeah, alumni get-together. We got together and got to talking about golf, and then Craig got us to play to his detriment. Art and I, you know, we're partners when we play, so we complement each other very well. And the other two guys we play, Craig Estrick and a friend of ours named Clint Jones, we usually take it easy on them sometimes, you know. But it's,
well, they've been coming on. They've been coming on strong, and I've been a load for you to carry, Eric. I haven't carried my end of the bargain. But,
we had to give them a chance, and they wouldn't play us anymore.
I know. I've been sandbagging a little bit just so they don't feel bad.
Right.
So I can't let you guys go without asking you. Obviously, we know what's going on right now with the program. If there was one thing you could do, or one thing that you could share with the program, a phrase, a statement, a story, what would that be? I think you've done it already, but I just want to pose that question to you both.
Oh, my answer is that, I mean, we've been through hard times before. Just like Art said, we went through a bad season, and we just came back and got everything together, and you just have to keep on pushing best you can. And if you just got to do, you got to make some changes. You can't keep doing the same thing, but you got to do some changes and just keep on pushing, man. Just don't give up.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing is, Patrick, there is no quit in his game. As a coach, as a player, he just is not a quitter. And that's great. However, the record matters. And, Smitty said it, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect things to be different. So you got to make a change. You got to do a change. And it's no slight. I mean, Patrick is one of the great American basketball players of all time, certainly the greatest Georgetown player, a great NBA player. He's given it a great shot as a coach. It just has not worked out. But you can count on one hand the number of great players who've become great coaches. It just doesn't happen. And so, he's given it all he has, because that's the only way he operates. And but the time has come, and the future will get brighter, and we'll rebuild.
And the only thing I will add to that, and I think you two gentlemen and your stories demonstrate the program will flourish again. The history, the legacy, and the pride that we have will get us through this. And again, I think you two epitomize that. And I want to thank you for coming through on a Sunday. I'm doing really good, because I usually, once we get to an hour, I get nervous because I'm taking up people's time too much. So we're under an hour, and again, I can't thank you both enough.
Thank God it's raining today.
Because I would not have had this pleasure. I'm really bad at this. I'm really bad at giving shout outs, but I do want to give some shout outs. I want to give a shout out to John Regan, who does he's like the unofficial Georgetown historian. And that's where I'm able to get a little bit deeper into the guests and sharing your exploits, because most guests just, they talk about the program. They don't really want to talk about themselves. And, you two gentlemen did it on and off the court. So I think it's important for people to know that. So a shout out to John, and then a shout out to Mark Edwards, who I touch bases with, Art, as it relates to you and some of your stories.
Sure.
I'm sorry, is the Mark Edwards? Yeah, Mark Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a lot of satire, because he's way more eloquent than me, so I couldn't use most of it.
No. Mark and I are good friends.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to give those two people a shout out, because they were helpful in being able to, make this thing flow a little bit better. Last thing, Super Bowl's today. I don't know why Eric has on the Miami gear, but I'm sure there's a story to that. Do you guys have a dog in this race or in that hunt?
Of course, I don't have a dog in this race.
Yeah, I don't have a dog either. I love football, and I love watching great football. I think we could see a classic today. I'm hoping for it. Patrick Mahomes is. I saw some video of him playing high school basketball. I
did too. I saw that.
He could play, and he was a major league pitcher. He was potentially could have gone to baseball. So
all right, that's some of those Irk Smith genes.
Say again.
Irk Smith genes.
Yes.
Was it the Chiefs that drafted you, Smitty? Was that?
No, I went to the St. Louis Cardinals.
St. Louis Cardinals, right. As a punter of all things, right?
Well, they wanted me to play wide receiver, but I slid over to the punt.
And the final thing, Smitty, did you know about the fight that they were in? Did you know about that before?
No, I did not know about that. That's the first time I've heard that.
So the next time you show up to art, have the boxing gloves on, please.
Why you think he's on my team? Why you think
Guys,
he's my
thank you
partner?
so much. Your Hoya family, your Hoya royalty. Enjoy your Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you guys in person in the near future.
Yes.
Thanks, Gene, for including us.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. We'll see you, Art.
We'll be in touch, and we'll as soon as the weather gets better, we'll get out on the course.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Be safe.
Yeah,
Oh, Art, Mr. Edwards wanted me to tell your lovely wife hello as well.
Okay, and my wife would like to say hello to Eric as well.
Oh yeah, I'll say hi to Casey.
and to Mark, to Kay. Yeah.
All right, guys. Be well. Be well.
Thanks, Gene.